Hello, so it's almost 1 a.m. I'm here with my sock microphone and a glass of wine, and for some reason I decided that now is the perfect time to reflect on 2020. Don't ask me why, I don't know, but I spent like over an hour setting this whole thing up, so I'm just gonna go with it. So it's no secret that 2020 was an absolute shit show. I don't know, I think we were doing okay up until about March, or at least it seemed like we were doing okay, but just from there on, everything went completely downhill. As I'm sure you watching are aware, we're on the same planet, in the same dimension. Everybody has gone through something, whether it was physically, mentally, emotionally, losing a loved one. There are just so many possible ways that the virus could have impacted everybody. With that being considered, I'm pretty happy that the new year's just around the corner. I mean, it's not like when it hits midnight on New Year's, everything's suddenly gonna change and become better, but you know, I'm just hoping for 2021. The goal of this video is just to draw at least a few positive things from this past year. I want to emphasize that this is just from my personal experience. I feel really lucky in the situation that I am, and I would say that I've just been mainly emotionally impacted, clearly, as I'm sitting here with a glass of wine at 1 a.m. And you may be thinking, why would I want to take advice from somebody who's drinking wine alone at 1 a.m. and talking to a camera? I don't know either, and that is not the point of this video. This is not meant to be advicey or anything. This is literally just me trying to pull some good out of what this past year has brought us and trying to gain something from the reflections and all of the time we've had alone with our thoughts, you know? So yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling and just get into my points. So the first thing I'm taking away from 2020 is definitely just the value of seeing people, of socializing, and just of the people in my life in general. This is just a given. Everybody was in one way or another deprived of this year. I mean, I already live apart from my parents when I'm at uni, but the fact that I'm in the same country as them and that I'm only a 3-hour drive from them is really, really lucky for me to have. And the fact that I got to live in a house with 4 other people is also really, really lucky for me to have. But even with this situation, I know that I felt really deprived, not being able to see friends as much, or more so not to be able to take part in group gatherings, like going to class. Who thought I would miss going to class in person, and parties as well? I'm not like a huge party person, but I really just miss group gatherings. But compared to the isolation some other people have faced, like living alone or living across the world from your family and friends, that would be so difficult. So yeah, just thinking about that has made me realize, although I consider myself an introvert and I love my alone time, like trust me, I love my alone time, being in groups of people is something that I took for granted before. I really want to make an intentional effort to really appreciate those moments and have gratitude for those moments. Now, kind of a contradictory point to this is the value of alone time. Now, as I mentioned, I live in a student house with 4 other people, which is kind of a lot of people to be living with for me. I mean, I grew up with just my mom, my dad, and myself. I've been an only child my whole life, and so it was just kind of different for me to be living with 4 people. I mean, there were certain times where I would just be sitting in communal areas or the kitchen or whatever, and I would be talking to my housemates, and it's always a great time. I love talking to my housemates. We have some great conversations, but after a certain point, I just know that I have to be alone, or else I'm not really going to be as pleasant to be around anymore. I mean, I'll try, but my energy is probably not going to be as fun. So yeah, I've just realized that more this year, and I think in the past I felt really guilty for that. Like I would think there's something wrong with me, but now I think I kind of realize more and accept that, especially as an introvert, kind of see it as like a social battery going low. And I'm sure other people can relate to this even more than me. I'm sure there are people who are living with way more people who are living with their whole family, but especially if you don't get along with who you're living with, the value of alone time is a huge thing. Just to like recharge and have you time is so important. That's such a cliche thing, but it's just so true. My next point is just the value of going outside, breathing fresh air, taking a walk. I have a habit tracker in my bullet journal, and I have added the past few months going outside to my habit because that is literally something I need to remind myself of. Previous years, I would just be rushing around campus so much and being outside a lot, which was great, but I didn't even think about that. And now that I've had nowhere to go except for the grocery store and to work once a week, it's had to become an intentional thing. If I didn't force myself to go outside for a walk in itself, that's the key thing, is just a walk in itself. No destination, just a walk for it being a walk. I will forget the outside world exists, and that is not a fun place to be in. Some days I'll literally just this is kind of sad. Some days I'll literally just step outside onto the porch as I'm making breakfast or something, just to tell myself that I breathed some fresh air that day. Probably doesn't count, but I tell myself it counts. I think a huge part of what matters is the intention, so it's okay. Without fail, every time I go on a walk when I'm feeling down, just listen to some good, sad, chill music while going on a walk, and just really making an effort to be present and to notice that I'm breathing fresh outside air, and to notice that I'm walking, and to notice the trees and the scenery and whatever, just like how it feels to be alive in that moment. That, like, every single time I feel at least like 1% better when I get home. Now the next thing that kind of goes along with this is the value of moving your body. Again, with being stuffed inside all the time, I found myself just sitting at my desk for hours on end, possibly days on end, which is obviously not good. So now if I don't work out every day, I make an effort to at least stretch, because I know if I don't move my body in some way, I'll feel like stale bread. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how to describe it any better, but I think that's just the best way to describe it for me. It just feels the most accurate. I feel like stale bread. And one thing that's really annoying, but also kind of really helpful, is in my habit/mood tracker thing in my bullet journal, I track working out as well. And it's so annoying, but it also makes so much sense because endorphins. But on the days where I don't work out, my mood is always worse. And again, this could be something just specific to my situation. Like, I know for me, working out is like probably the number one thing I need to like be a functioning human being. But yeah, like looking at that habit tracker, it doesn't lie. Literally every single day that I don't work out, my mood is usually not good. And then the next day, as soon as I work out, I'm suddenly like, oh, I had a great day today. It's just really annoying, but also helpful to know that's there, but also working out is hard sometimes. So like, I don't know, I'm back and forth on this, but it still shows me that it's an important value. This is something that I really want to try to drill into my own brain, because I always feel like I say this to myself, but I never actually do it, is essentially just understanding the value of opportunities that are presented to you, and the value of saying yes to more things and just stepping outside of your comfort zone in general. Pre-2020, I had so many things planned. I was supposed to travel with friends, go to weddings, go just travel in different places in general, and I was so excited for this. But then that all got taken away, as I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. Looking back and reflecting on that, I think what I can take from that is just understanding that when opportunities and things are presented to you, to take them and to not take them for granted, because I really took them for granted. Like, I was just like, oh yeah, this is gonna happen. Like, I was supposed to go abroad this upcoming semester. That's not happening, but I just assumed it was because I was accepted and everything. Normally that would happen, but you never anticipate a pandemic. It's an opportunity to have opportunities presented to you. And my next point is just that hobbies are important. Like, man, I swear, reflecting on this, it kept me sane, because with all of the extra free time I had, although online classes were difficult, I still had free time from not having to attend in-person lectures. So with all of that free time, I feel so lucky that I have like a gazillion hobbies, because that's like what I did with my year. Like, I don't know what I would have done if school was like my whole life, because when I didn't know what to do with myself, I would just do those things. And my next point is just simply that mindfulness is important, whether this is in the form of meditation or journaling or, oh my god, my foot's asleep. I'm just gonna fight through the pain. Oh my god. Okay, my leg is now numb. I can't really feel it, so I'm just going to continue saying what I was saying. But yeah, in terms of mindfulness, whether that's in the form of journaling or meditation or self-compassion, whatever it may be, basically this past year we were all left alone with our thoughts a lot more than usual. I've always been one to kind of over-reflect anyways, so I'm kind of used to just it being me and my thoughts a lot of the time, because I do that to myself. Like, I love to stare at the ceiling for 3 hours and just like evaluate what's going on in my brain. But 2020 just amped that up. I realized that meditation, journaling, just having some type of outlet, also talking to people, talking to parents and close friends, those are all such huge things that just allowed me to continue functioning without that, without the people around me, without some type of outlet, also without therapy. I'm just listing things now, but all of these things just helped me keep my shit together a little bit while, you know, the entire world was crumbling around all of us. Like, a lot of the time when I journal, I'll write some really negative things, and then I'll kind of be able to catch myself, because when you write it on paper, you see what you're writing, like you can see your thoughts. And so I think that's really helpful to be able to then underline something and be like, hey, this is a little bit negative, or you're being a little bit mean to yourself, maybe you can improve that. And then just kind of, CBT yourself and correct that negative thought pattern. So journaling is really helpful. I do kind of a similar thing in meditation. If I notice a negative thought floating through my head, I'll kind of just notice it. That typical thing they say in meditations where they're like, it's a floating cloud, it's not part of you, it's just passing. So yeah, I like to visualize that. All of these things, they just help me keep my brain a little bit less scattered, and I feel like while 2020 was a huge year of breakdowns and crumbling and shattering, I'm not talking about just myself, I'm talking about like the world in general. While it was all those things, I think it was also the biggest year. Not I think, like I know, I think this is like a fact. I don't have the statistics, but I think it's a fact, that it was also the hugest year of reflection for everybody, and especially for people who weren't normally self-reflective. I don't think that there was an option to not be this year, and I think that that was something great. So my 8th point is the value of routine, structure, habits. I've always thought of myself as a very easygoing, go with the flow type of person, and I didn't really associate myself with structured things or organization or anything in that realm. But this past year, I've realized that those things are absolutely necessary for me, as I've mentioned in all the previous points, so I won't linger on this too long. But things like working out and meditating and eating well and going on a walk every day, keeping my sleep schedule in check, which I still really need to work on, but like all of those types of things, and having, for me, like I have a tracker for those, and keeping that routine and structure and being really intentional with all of those habits in a way that is loving towards yourself, and that you're doing it not because it's like something to check off your list of things to do, but because it's something that you have to do to like feel okay. That's something really important. So these past 2 things are kind of larger structural societal things, but I want to mention them because we all watch the news, we all know what happened in 2020, not only in terms of the virus, but also just in so many other ways, especially things like the Black Lives Matter movement. They're just things that can't be ignored, and they're things that I think we can all learn something from. But with that being said, the first of these 2 points is just having gratitude for where you are in your life and understanding that not everybody's experience is the same as yours. For example, like I've said in this video, I know that I have had it so easy compared to so many people this year, and I'm endlessly grateful for that. Going forward, I just want to keep that idea on my radar and just realize how lucky I am to have food on my table, a roof over my head, just simple forms of gratitude like that, and realizing that despite the pandemic, I think I've had it pretty easy. So the last of these 2 points, and the last point in general, is just the importance of sustainability and of being environmentally friendly and environmentally cautious. I remember seeing reports of like fish showing up in some body of water where they hadn't been for years or something like that, and lessened air pollution somewhere. I don't have the proper statistics on hand, but yeah, I remember seeing those things pop up in the news, and that just really stuck in my brain, and it just kind of reminded me that lessened production, like lessened demand, equals less pollution. Just, that kind of whole system. I know it's hard for one person to feel like they're making a huge impact, but still, it was just kind of a small reminder that a cleaner world can exist. Like, the potential is there. It's hard to get there, but the potential is there. So yeah, going forward, I just want to make more sustainable and environmentally cautious choices. So thank you, COVID-19. Those are my 10 takeaways from COVID-19 / the year of 2020, which I am so happy to say is ending very shortly. And I really think there's a light at the end of the tunnel with Biden going into office and with the vaccine coming around. I don't want to get too optimistic because, as we've seen, things can get pretty bad. But yeah, I think that things are going to get better, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I hope that something off this list resonated with you. I hope you got something from this video. This wasn't really intended to be an advicey video. I don't know if it turned into that. It was more so just meant to be a reflection on things that we can learn from 2020 instead of just hating the year, because I also have that hatred for it. It's like a love-hate relationship. If you like this video, make sure to like it, subscribe, and join the fam. If you would like to, you are so welcome to. Yeah, I will see you in my next video. Should be a January bullet journal setup / New Year's resolutions type of thing, and I hope you're having a wonderful day, evening, afternoon, whatever time it is where you are. Here's to 2020 and hopefully the virus being over soon. So yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!